Hey, it's your guy Tyrrell back with the interviews. In today's video, we're going to briefly analyze Declan Rice and break down the role that England international would fill under Mikel Arteta.
So in today's video, first we're going to focus on Rice's role at West Ham, and then secondly we'll focus on the several positive ways he impacts that midfield zone and would improve the Gunners in that central area.
So when we break it all down and we do look at the board, first we're going to focus on West Ham, and what we've predominantly witnessed this season is that they do play in a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3. If it's a 4-2-3-1, you often have Lucas Paquetá just ahead of Rice and Souček, but there have been situations where Rice has been the sole pivot with Souček and another player, whether it be Lucas Paquetá or Fornals, playing as the left shuttler. We'll focus on the 4-2-3-1 for now, and what we end up seeing is that what West Ham often do is that they do have the center forward up front. They look to get their wider players into more central positions, and they do look to push their fullbacks forward. In that case, what we see from Rice is that he often operates in a role that we witnessed from specifically Granit Xhaka in the early stages of Mikel Arteta's tenure. You'll have Rice dropping off into the inside left position, and that will allow the fullback to push forward to provide the width, and then the wide player will tuck in towards a central area. That provides cover for the fullback who's pushing forward into that position, and from there Rice will be playing short passes, and there are occasions where he looks to find the wide player tucking into space between the lines with penetrative passes in towards that zone. If we specifically focus on that shape, that does often leave West Ham in a 3-2-5, but there are situations where it can be a 3-1-6 if Souček pushes forward to join the attack. And many occasions what you see from that double pivot is that if Souček pushes forward, Rice holds his position, and if Rice on the rare occasion pushes forward to join the attack with his ball carrying, then that's where you will see Souček holding his position as well. If West Ham were to be in a 4-3-3, that's where you could see the shuttlers pushing forward as well to join the attack. And if he does hold his position so that the fullback can push forward, then again, it does look like more of a 3-1-6, as the other fullback will hold his position, and then Rice will be sitting just ahead of that back three with the capability of shifting to the left or to the right to provide cover for fullbacks pushing forward, especially with the shuttlers pushing it into advanced positions as well. In terms of a defensive base shape, that means that West Ham will drop into two banks of four if they are in a 4-2-3-1, or often be in a 4-5-1 if they're in a 4-3-3. From there, what you see from Rice is that he's looking to pick up his marker if it is 3v3 in that midfield zone. But if they do play in a 4-2-3-1 and the opposing wide player looks to tuck in towards central positions, you do see situations where Rice does drop off a bit deeper and picks up that attacking player floating in towards that zone. So for large spells of the game, you witness Rice picking up the ball in his own third or sometimes in the middle third. From his own third, he looks to get away from the pressure that the opposing side does present, whether it be dropping off in towards the back line in between the center backs or shifting towards the outside of the center backs to receive possession. And there are times where he does shift towards the touch line to get on the ball as well. He does a very good job of being press resistant in those zones. So when teams do look to apply a high press, he's capable of playing through that press with his passing.
In this example, you have Rice picking up the ball at the edge of his box, and he looks to play the ball around two Wolves players for Lucas Paquetá. He looks to get the ball off those two runners, and when he receives it, he then splits two Wolves midfielders to play the ball into the center forward, who drops it off into the path of Bowen, and that helps West Ham progress their play. And then here you have Rice dropping in towards the back line. He receives the ball from the center back. He draws pressure towards him, and from here he receives the ball comfortably, pushes the ball on towards his right foot. He gains a yard away from that player, dragging two towards him, and then splits both to play the ball into the center back, who can then progress the play.
And there are situations where you witness him receiving the ball, inviting the press towards him, and from there he's capable of dribbling away from that press and carrying the ball in towards the middle third to progress the play. Or there are times where he's inviting the pressure and then he's looking to play the ball across the pressure in towards one of his teammates, so then he can continue his run beyond the marker that was looking to step towards him, and then he can receive the ball freely to push West Ham forward.
Earlier in the season against Man United, you have Rice picking up the ball at the edge of the area. He drags Ronaldo towards him, and because Ronaldo doesn't press timely, he gets the ball onto his left foot. He evades the late challenge from Ronaldo, and there he carries the ball beyond him holding off the pressure from the forward, and he slides the ball out towards Cresswell to help West Ham push forward. But now as Cresswell drags a marker towards him, he continues his run towards that zone, and that player is bypassed. Unfortunately for Rice, though, the pass from Cresswell is overhit and out of play. Against City, you have Rice receiving the ball in his own penalty area, and City look to press instantly, but even though that press is applied, he anticipates it and rolls the presser easily and then slides the ball out towards the left channel.
The other positive that Rice does provide to his side's build-up is that he can drop off in towards those spaces to receive the ball, and he does possess the passing range to consistently switch balls out towards the opposite flank to get his attacking players time and space in those wide areas to switch the route of attack and then look to penetrate the opposing side's backline. There are several examples of Rice picking up the ball in the inside left position, identifying that there's no passing option towards the touchline or in the pocket of space between the lines. So then he'll look to play a diagonal ball out towards the advancing right back on the right hand side, or the attacking player that's hugging the touchline or looking to break in behind. In the middle third, from a passing perspective, a lot of his passes do go sideways out and towards the wide areas, or at times he drops it back towards the back line to help West Ham cycle possession and retain it. But at the same time, we do witness occasions where he's capable of playing reverse passes in towards the wide players, tucking in towards those pockets of space between the lines so that they could run at the opposing side's back line, or at times are just simple vertical passes in towards that zone. But Rice does possess the capability of threading a pass to break down the opposing side's midfield bank to get his attacking players into dangerous positions where they could create or serve as a legitimate scoring threat. From a statistical standpoint, Rice is one of the Premier League's top tacklers and interceptors. He is in the top 10 for most tackles recorded. He stays in that realm for the top defensive third tackles. In regards to interceptions, he topped the Premier League in that statistic. And in regards to tackles and interceptions, he's in the top 5. Now, when we break down both aspects of Rice's game, from an interception perspective, a lot of it is down to his positioning and his anticipation, but both go hand in hand as he's often forcing opposing players to play the ball into a specific area, and from there he's anticipating the ball going into that zone, and that's where you see him stepping or sliding in to make an intervention. And then in terms of Rice's tackling, his ability to break up play in his own third, the middle third, and the final third is impressive. A lot of it is down to his ability to stick with the play and track runners off the ball, because there are a lot of situations where you're seeing the ball bypass Rice initially, but it's what he does when the ball bypasses him. He often has the knack of tracking that move and tracking the free runner breaking into space, and from there he looks to step in, whether it be with a slide tackle or a simple challenge to win possession. From his own third, there are two aspects where Rice does excel in. One being his ability to identify when the intended pass receiver does have a poor touch and he sticks with the play so that he can step in at the right moment. Or there are times where he simply tracks the movement of the initial passer, and when that player looks to run in towards space, he sticks with that run, and that's when you see him coming across to step in to close down the angle.
In West Ham's season opener against City, you could see that Rice is bypassing the midfield zone, but focus on his positioning. There's a 2v1 against Cresswell, and when the ball is played over him for De Bruyne, Rice does a very good job of making up ground, getting across the City attacker, and winning possession to ensure that Kevin De Bruyne can't get on the ball, and you see that he recovers possession to halt that attack. Then later on in that game, you witness City breaking in transition and Rice shifting across to close down Grealish. He does a very good job of sticking in front of Grealish as you see two City runners breaking forward, and he forces Grealish to cut the ball back towards the left side of the pitch rather than going central. And from here, what ends up happening is that Rice does get bypassed initially by Grealish's dribbling, but when Grealish looks to play the ball in towards the center forward, focus on Rice tracking that movement, and when they look to play the quick 1-2, Rice is able to track it, get across and intervene. He steps in to ensure Grealish can't receive the ball in left half space, and he does a very good job of winning the loose ball and playing it forward to halt that attack as well.
In terms of Rice's impact in the middle third, it's somewhat similar. He often looks to identify players that overtouch the ball and look to dribble forward in and around that zone, and from there he has the ability to track that run stride for stride and get his long legs in to make a challenge, or simply use his strength to push the opposing player off the ball or force them into a loose pass or a loose touch. If that's not the case, he allows dribblers to carry the ball in towards that zone, and he simply tracks their movement before stepping in to attempt to win possession.
Earlier this season against United, you have Elanga picking up the ball in in free space in the midfield zone and focus on Rice. Rice shifts across to track that run, and then he gets across Alanga, who takes a heavy touch, blocks him off to ensure that he can't push forward, and forces him into a loose touch that ends up falling in towards the path of the center back, and that all stems with Rice shifting over to provide cover and tracking that movement to ensure the center back can win possession. And then against Aston Villa, you have a pass being played in towards that center circle area, and it's Rice who's shifting across to provide cover as his midfielders are bypassed. And he does a very good job of covering ground and sliding in to make a challenge, and there you see the loose ball pushing towards the right channel, but he does a very good job of getting across to beat two Villa players towards the ball, and then he drops it off towards his teammate to halt the attack.
And then in terms of the final third, when West Ham do look to press higher up the pitch, it often stems with Rice forcing the opposing player in towards the wide area, or that initial phase of the press forcing the opposing side towards that zone. And that's where you see Rice coming across to force the ball in towards that area. And from there, he steps in to make challenges. And in those situations, when West Ham force the opposing side in towards that zone, Rice does a very good job of helping his side regain possession.
In this example, you witness Rice doing a good job of breaking up a counterattack. He stays in front of the ball carrier and forces him out in towards the wide zone. And watch what Rice does next. He covers ground well and he anticipates that pass in towards that area, and he tracks it down and ends up sliding in towards the ball receiver, and that's how he ends up breaking up the play.
On another hand, Rice would be an asset towards Arsenal in the sense of defending transitional attacks, because even when he is caught higher up the pitch or opposing sides look to break beyond him, he has the ability to stick with the play as stated prior, track back in towards his position, and from there he serves as an outlet to help his side regain possession. And we've witnessed that on several occasions where he's capable of getting back into position, sticking with the play, and making a challenge. There are several examples where you witness Rice recovering his position to stick with the opposing side's ball carrier and stepping in to make a challenge to break up the play, and that would serve as an asset for an Arsenal side that does need a presence in and around that midfield that could help protect the back four when Arsenal lose possession and the opposing side breaks forward in transition.
And then against Wolves, initially you see Rice being bypassed by Podence, who's now looking to break forward in transition, and he drags out Zuma, but he ends up winning the challenge with Zuma to break in towards the West Ham third. But as that challenge is won, he stumbles a bit, and that allows Rice to come across to cover ground. And from there, as Podence looks to carry the ball across Cresswell, Rice matches him stride for stride, gets across him to brush him off the ball, and he forces the ball out and towards the wide zone that allows Cresswell to regain possession, and that all stems with Rice's ability to cover that ground.
Now, the other key aspect to Rice's game stems from an offensive perspective, and it's his ability to carry the ball in towards the opposing side's half and help West Ham progress their attack. There are different ways that he can do that. One is his ability to bypass the opposing side's press with his passing, and from there you often see him playing a ball in towards an attacking teammate and then pushing forward on the rare occasion to get further up the pitch, and from there he's looking for the return pass, and then he looks to carry the ball in towards the opposing side's half. The other manner in which Rice can serve as a threat is that if he receives the ball in space in his own third and there's enough space ahead of him to carry the ball in towards, and from there he's a willing runner to attack the back four and then look for an option breaking in behind them. The same is applicable if he does look to break forward in transition because the other side's caught out of position, and from there all it takes is for him to receive the ball in space and he's looking to carry the ball in towards the opposing side's half to get a runner in behind. And then from his own third, if a single man press is applicable, Rice does have the capability of getting around that press and then looking to push forward in towards the opposing side's half, and from there he gives his side another outlet to get into the opposing side's third to get in towards attacking positions. And then lastly, one of Rice's greatest strengths is to combine both his ability to break up play and then turn defense into attack swiftly to carry the ball in towards the opposing side's third or to help get his side higher up the pitch. Here we have three different examples of how he's capable of doing it, one being his ability to anticipate a loose touch or his teammates looking to step in towards the ball, and from there he has the ability to carry the ball beyond the opposing side's pressure and then look to play the ball out into wider areas to help his side relieve that pressure and push forward. The other aspect in where he can serve as an asset is looking to get back in towards position to stop the opposing side from breaking in transition, and that often does result in the opposing side having a ball carrier dribbling in towards his own third. And from there, Rice is capable of sliding in or making a tackle to break up that play. And from there, he has the ability to regain possession and then look to push forward, inviting pressure towards him, but also having the ability to dribble beyond that pressure and then look to play the ball out towards his teammate in wider areas. And then if that isn't the case, he could also carry the ball forward into the opposing side's third, and from there look for the best passing option, whether it be out in the wider areas or looking to play a penetrative pass in towards his attacking players, drifting laterally in towards that space between the lines. And then lastly, you could focus on his ability to anticipate the ball going in towards a specific zone and simply his positioning to step in towards that challenge to win the loose ball. And from there, he could push forward by evading a few challenges as he does regain possession. And that's where you can end up seeing him sliding the ball out and towards the wide area for an attacking player who can then look to push forward and help West Ham get higher up the pitch. So as you can see, it's evident as to why Arsenal are interested in strengthening their midfield by securing Declan Rice's signature, as he provides the defensive protection and balance ahead of the back four that can serve as a key component towards challenging for silverware next season.